What's up, football world? It is Bucky Brooks, and this is the Bucky Brooks Show, and we are breaking down Super Bowl 60. Look, I know everyone has an opinion on this game. There's some people that actually think this may be a snoozer. I am in the other camp. I think this is going to be a fantastic game. Two defensive-minded coach. We have Mike McDonald, who's trying to be the first defensive play caller to win a Super Bowl. You have Mike Vrabel, who's done an epic bounce back from being fired in Tennessee to turning around the Patriots in his first year. This is fantastic. And it's fantastic because I think these are the two best teams. If you go and you look at the entire course of the season, the way that they've played, there have been others that were vying for it at the top. The Denver Broncos in the AFC come to mind, but the Patriots vanquished them on their field. You have the LA Rams, who are kind of the darling for most of the year. Even though they weren't sitting in the top spot, there was a feeling that they were the best team. But when you get to Super Bowl 60 and you look at the path that both of these teams traveled to get there, it's hard to deny that these were the two best teams. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about both teams. I want to talk about the matchups that matter, and then I'm going to pick a winner. Let's dive into it. And let's start with the underdog, the Patriots. When you look at this team, really surprised that they are here given their roster. It is not a perfectly constructed roster, but it's a roster that fits well together. And when I mean they fit well together, they are masters of complementary football. They are masters of complementary playmakers, people stepping up when things need to be done. And they've done it intentionally based on the way that Mike Vrabel built this team. When you listen to him throughout the week at the Super Bowl, he's talked about how this team, how he had a vision of this team coming together and how they wanted to be connected. And he wanted to be able to take a team that was well connected, that had the chemistry, and just find different ways to win games. When you think about him in general as a head coach, one of the best strategists, one of the best tacticians that you know. He understands the rule book front to back, and he will find ways to win in the margins. And that's one of the things that you have to look for when you're facing the Patriots. They win in the margins. They do what you're unwilling to do, and that gives them a decided advantage in most of their contests, whether that's using trick plays, whether that's understanding how to manipulate the clock to make sure they bleed it correctly, what they do on special teams at times in terms of coffin corner kicks or doing odd kickoffs to make you burn up time in critical moments. They are going to do whatever is necessary to be able to get it done. In a lot of ways, they're a throwback team, kind of like the early 2000s Patriots, where, look, man, they just find different ways to get it done. And you look up and you're like, I cannot believe this is a Super Bowl team based on who they played, but they out-execute you when it matters. When I look at this team in general, what I would say offensively, this is a team that morphs and changes based on who they're playing. The advantage that you have if you're the Patriots, all of this Super Bowl experience, one from Mike Vrabel as a player. You have Josh McDaniels, who's been, I think this is his 9th Super Bowl as a coach. They're very, very comfortable in these big games. And their ability to find comfort in these games allows them to operate at an even keel when the pressure gets high. I think we all have seen the viral moment where Josh McDaniels is counseling Drake Maye on the sideline. There's 6 minutes left in the AFC Championship game, and Drake Maye just talking about how hard it is. But Josh McDaniels is very cool, and it's like, hey, these games are like this. And to me, that is something that has been under-discussed. The advantage of having coached in these games multiple times and how you find peace amid the pressure. That is a huge advantage for Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, and some of the other coaches with the Patriots who've been on this stage. And being able to understand what it's like as a player for Vrabel, he can give some tips and nuggets to his players on how to handle it. I think it's interesting when listening to the presser, Stephon Diggs talked about, hey, man, before we can even think about getting to the game on Sunday, we need to take care of business each and every day over the next 48 to 72 hours to make sure we're prepared to play at our best on Sunday. And then the game will take care of itself. You hear Drake Maye appear to have a laser-focused approach on, hey, man, like we get to Wednesday, it's going to be a pattern practice day. Thursday, too. We're going to keep the main thing the main thing. We're not going to deviate from our routine. And when we get to the game, we'll deal with the game itself. When you hear players talk like that, when you hear players utter the same sentiments that coaches have talked about in their pressers, it means that they really get it. They're really locked in to what the coach's messages are. And because Mike Vrabel has played on the stage and he really understands the difference that comes with playing in the Super Bowl compared to playing in a championship game and a regular playoff game, he's able to talk about that. On my own personal experience, I remember as a young player playing for the Buffalo Bills, they were coming off 4 straight Super Bowl appearances. And I remember Thurman Thomas and Andre Reed being able to talk to me in the locker room about, hey, man, there are 4 different speeds in the National Football League. There's preseason, there's regular season, there's playoffs, and then there's Super Bowl. And every time you advance to a different level, the game gets faster, more physical, more urgency, and the mistakes have more consequences. So you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable in these highly pressurized environments so that you can play at your best and not get overwhelmed by the moment. Because Vrabel has done that, I think it's easy for him to kind of paint that picture for his players as they're preparing for the game. On the other side, we'll talk about the team, the Seahawks, and Mike McDonald, and the fantastic job he's done in getting this team up to speed. When I look at the Seahawks, what I see is a team that is immensely talented. I mean, they are talented all over the board. When you think about on offense, JSN is playing terrific. Kenneth Walker, look, the continued redemption story that Sam Darnold has been with Clint Kubiak, the way that he's performed at a high level, they're able to get it done. Offensive line, Rick Dennison, offensive line coach, has really taken this unit together and got them to play at a high level, even though when you look at the individual parts, you wouldn't think they would play to the level that the collective is playing. But coaching does that. Defensively, talented, every level. They can get after it up front. Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Chinny Nwosu, you think about DeMarcus Lawrence, they are able to just throw waves of bodies at you and dominate. The second level, Ernest Jones, Drake Thomas, get after it. But then in the secondary, people talk about the Legion of Boom, but these young guys on the dark side have been terrific. Nick Emanuori, Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen, Julian Love, like on and on and on. They've just been terrific, and they're playing like a team. And having seen them up close and personal down in Jacksonville on the sideline, just blown away by the overwhelming talent that they possess. But it takes more than talent to win these games. It takes a level of toughness. It takes flawless execution. And it takes the ability to come through with big plays in opportune moments. When I go back and I look at the Patriots, they're not a big play team. They're a team that kind of nickels and dime you to death. They'll take their shots down the field. And I know people are kind of stuck on the version of Drake Maye that they've seen in the playoffs. But I got to remind you, in the regular season, he was a flamethrower, led the league in completion percentage, passer rating, and yards per attempt. 72% completion rate, 113.5 passer rating, average almost 9 yards per attempt. What you're getting from this offense in the regular season was a highly efficient machine that was operating at the highest level. And because they were so efficient that they lull you to sleep and thinking that they're just a dink and duck outfit, but Drake Maye is taking his shots, pushing the ball down the field, and is complemented by a physical running game with Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson sharing the workload. When I think about how this has to play out in the Super Bowl, the offense for the Patriots is the one that has to carry the water. And the reason why is because I think their defense can hold up, but they're facing a defense that is terrific. And offensively, the Patriots have struggled throughout the postseason. You think about what they did against the Chargers, how they performed, like against the Broncos. There's just the unknowns that you worry about in terms of them being able to get it done, and can they efficiently do it with Drake Maye struggling. And in the postseason, Drake Maye has struggled. He's only completed 55% of his passes. What I talked about, an 8.9 yards per attempt average in the regular season, has dropped down to 6.9 in the postseason. 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, countless fumbles, some that he've recovered, some that have gone the other way. He just hasn't performed at a high level. And I think that's why people are pausing on really believing that the Patriots can win this. I'll say, don't be overly affected by recency bias. Just because we've seen them struggle against these top defenses in the postseason, that's not really reflective of who the Patriots have been, and nor who Drake Maye has been throughout the course of the regular season. And at some point, it always evens up. You always go back to the mean. My expectation is Drake Maye is going to be more like the regular season version than the postseason version. When I go to the other side and I think about Seattle and their offense, man, Sam Darnold has lit it up in the postseason. And look, we just have those memories of him lighting up the LA Rams, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Sam Darnold in the regular season, super solid. 4,000-yard season, 25 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 67% completion rate, passer rating just under 100 at 99, but 20 giveaways. And we talk about turnovers being the biggest deciding factor in games, particularly in the postseason. Sam Darnold has avoided that in the postseason thus far. But you got to remember, the Seattle Seahawks were near the top of the charts when it came to giveaways. Can they continue to avoid the turnover bug, and can Sam Darnold continue to avoid the bug? That will be the thing that you have to look at. What I worry about, both sides, like for both teams. For Drake Maye, I worry about his ability to handle the pass rush, because the Seattle Seahawks can get after it with a 4-man rush. They can create pressure, and that constant pressure can lead to negative plays, sacks, and turnovers. We've seen them victimized by that. We saw the Texans able to get after them. They just have had a ton of problems blocking, particularly Will Campbell against elite pass rushers. It's been problematic through the postseason. That's quickened the clock. That's led to some inefficiencies. And Drake Maye's had to lean on his legs more than his arm, which is not really how he got down in the regular season. Sam Darnold, on the other hand, has been terrific in the postseason in terms of being able to light it up. He understands the picture. Clint Kubiak diced up the LA Rams and made it very, very simple. Now, part of their success might have been due to the fact that Sam had played him 2 times in the regular season before seeing him in a championship game. And the familiarity may have allowed him to uncover and unlock some of the tips to being able to figure out what coverage they were going to and how to attack. The one thing that we know about the Patriots, and several quarterbacks have talked about how muddy the picture is for their back end, how difficult it is to decipher what they're doing in the secondary, and that just can make you pause, hesitate, hitch, and that's just enough for the pass rush to get there. Their ability to throw these cloudy looks could be advantageous for Sam Darnold. And I know people don't want to revisit this, but remember, when Sam Darnold was with the Jets and he made the infamous "I'm seeing ghost" comments, Patriots were the team that he was facing. And because the Patriots are so muddy when it comes to their pre-snap disguise, it can be an issue. And that issue could result in some turnovers from Sam Darnold, turnovers that we haven't seen in the postseason, but the turnovers that came in buckets in the regular season. So keep an eye on that. As we flip it and talk about both teams' defenses, I talked about the cloudy looks that the Patriots like to give you. They are a team that is very constructed, very similar to the way that Bill Belichick used to construct these teams, from back to front. And even though people are talking about Milton Williams and Caleb Von Chase, they've done a great job. But the talent, the strength of this roster is in the back end, and it starts out wide. Just like Belichick used to do it, Mike Vrabel has followed suit. You think about Christian Gonzalez on one side, Carlton Davis on the other side. They are able to lock people up. They can play man-to-man. They can play right in your face to eliminate the easy throws, but they don't give up the big passes over the top. Marcus Jones is a terrific nickel, so he can line up in the slot and make things happen. And when you're able to play man-to-man and you're able to put someone right in the middle of the field, what you're able to do is discourage them from throwing those in-breaking routes, and you make them throw out-breaking routes to the sideline. Longer throw, lower percentage throw, increases your chance of on defense of getting off the field. A couple of days ago, I had a chance to talk to Kenny Moore on Nickelback for the Indianapolis Colts, and talk to him on NFL Network. We were doing an interview, and we were asking, what was it like because they played the Seahawks really, really close in Phillip Rivers' first game. And I was like, what was it like playing against Sam Darnold and those things? And one of the things that he talked about is a very detailed report where he talked about in breaking routes, understanding where they line up, the receivers line up on the hashes, knowing that they're going to bounce Jackson Smith and Jigba around. But he talked about the number of inside breaking routes they're going to throw over the middle. To counter that, look for the Patriots to play man coverage with maybe a lurk safety, a safety that is sitting right around 12 to 15 yards in the middle, playing the eyes of Sam Darnold, trying to get in the way of any of those digs and basic routes or any of those crossers that the Seattle Seahawks have been living by. So keep an eye on that. Leverage is everything. That is going to be a big part of it. Also talked about Jackson Smith and Jigba and how good he is. The Patriots traditionally, if they have had a high level of respect for a receiver and they were going to double team him, they would normally take their second best corner, put him on the opponent's number one wide receiver, and then use some kind of double coverage on that. Take their best corner and put him on the number two receiver. So that would be like a Cooper Kupp, and make sure that he is neutralized because you have a better corner on a better receiver, and you're forcing them to throw to the third options or their tight ends. Somewhere in the game, you can see the Patriots go to that because that's a very effective strategy for them. It's been an effective strategy for them for 20 plus years. I expect Mike Vrabel to lean back into that. That's going to be a big part of it. And if they can lock up and hold their own in man coverage, then you'll have a chance to see Caleb Chasen, Milton Williams, Harold Landry get after the quarterback. And so because they play coverage first, pressure second, it's incumbent upon them to be able to stop the passes, the big passes down the field, and force Sam Darnold to throw out-breaking routes or to have to fit the ball into tight windows. Interceptions come off tips and overthrows, and throwing into tight windows, those are deflections that end up leading to batted balls and balls bouncing off shoulder pads that eventually picked off. On the other end, look for the Seattle Seahawks to do what they've done to everybody. Man, they just squeeze the living life out of everybody with their pass rush. Up front, they are so good. They have a huge advantage up front because on the inside, they can get it done. Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, explosive athletes, savvy pass rushers, really can do it. DeMarcus Lawrence has just found the fountain of youth since coming over from the Cowboys, and he makes it miserable for people the way that he speed rushes around the end. His tenacity, his toughness are problematic. On the other side, Uchenna Nwosu, who is also a speed rusher. Boye Mafe, they bring in some other people. They have a wave of people coming at you, and they just wear you down. Their approach is to outwork, outlast you, and then eventually in the fourth quarter, they're going to outperform you when it matters most. You can't fault the strategy. When I look at who needs to play well in terms of the X factor for both offenses against this defense, I'm going to say for the Patriots, it has to be the run game. And it has to be Ramondre Stevenson / Travion Henderson as runners, not as receivers. And the reason why, well, I would say as receivers for Travion Henderson, the reason why is because the Seattle Seahawks are one of the best in the business against the run. And so they're going to be all over Stevenson. Henderson could have a bigger deal because to me, this is Josh McDaniels digging way back into the playbook and utilizing the things that they traditionally did against elite defenses. Empty formation, option routes from the running back, going all the way back. It used to be Kevin Falk. Then it was Shane Vereen. Then he Woodhead. I believe this is the game for Travion Henderson to be a factor coming out the backfield because the matchups that they can create in empty can expose what the Seattle Seahawks want to do, and it can clear up the picture for Drake Maye. So anticipate that. On the other side, when it comes to Sam Darnold facing the muddy portrait from the Patriots, look for the running game to be a big part of it. And the reason why you want to run the ball, because you can do all those cute pre-snap disguises, and they work well against the pass. But if you're getting hit in the mouth by a hard-charging running game, you can't do it. X factor for me is Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker was fantastic in the championship game. The way that he got in and out, the explosive plays, the way that he's played the last 4 or 5 games, they need that version to show up. Because if they can run the football, now the play action passes show up. The Patriots can't do those tricky brackets and formation things that they like to do from a defensive standpoint, the coverage to slow down JSN, that is going to give more opportunities to JSN. But I talked about Kenneth Walker being a big factor. The X factor is Cooper Kupp, the former MVP, the former Triple Crown winner. You notice in the championship game when they needed plays, they needed to move the chains, the game was on the line. Sam Darnold found Cooper Kupp. Not big plays, plays that didn't appear to have great significance, but they were critical plays in the moment. Cooper Kupp has to be able to win his one-on-one matchups because he can be the dependable, reliable safety outlet that Sam Darnold wants to target. They brought him over, and he's done a great job of offering tutelage and mentorship to all the young guys. But in this game, they need a throwback moment from Cooper Kupp. Final thoughts as we begin to kind of wrap this up when it comes to X factors and what I'm looking for. For the Seahawks, we talked about muddying the picture, making Drake Maye see things. Mike McDonald is a master of, I would say, the pre-snap mug looks and how they get to their zone pressures. They will send overloads from one side and drop out from the other side to the passing strength. You have to see if Drake Maye is going to be able to handle some of these exotic looks in third down situations. The Seattle Seahawks want to force third and long because then they can get funky. They can throw some sauce on what they're doing defensively, and they can make it miserable for the quarterback because you just can't decipher what's going on. We've seen teams really befuddled by that, and it normally takes a really dialed-in quarterback to be able to kind of get it done against him. Given Drake Maye's struggles, I think it's going to be extra spicy from the Seattle Seahawks in terms of what they throw at him and how they attempt to get him off his game. On the other end with the Patriots, I think it's just about the running game and taking away the crutches for Sam Darnold. People won't talk about the divisional round, but he didn't have to throw the ball. He threw it like 17 or so times. They were able to run the football. They were able to control the game. And so it wasn't on him. In spite of what he was able to do in the championship game, that's Sam Darnold that I'm talking about. You have to make this a game where he has to win the game as a passer. So collapse the run, control the run. Don't let Kenneth Walker be a factor. Make sure Milton Williams and those guys up front can control the running game. And then it becomes a 7-on-7 contest with JSN versus a very talented secondary. The other guy that you have to look for, I already gave you an X factor in Cooper Kupp. I would say my X factor would be Rashid Shaheed, not only as a gadget playmaker, but in the kicking game. In these games where you have two evenly matched teams, an explosive play in the kicking game can be the deciding factor. Shaheed is taking punts back. He's taking kickoffs back. You've seen him make an instant impact right away. If he gives them a spark and flips the field, man, things are really going to go in the Seattle Seahawks direction. Finally, Mike Vrabel versus Mike McDonald. How well does Mike McDonald handle the first-time pressure of being in the Super Bowl as a defensive play caller? A lot of things to manage. Can't make it bigger than what it is while calling the game and controlling everything. We got to look out for that. His game plan, I know, is going to be solid. He's going to attack the Patriots the right way. He's going to put a lot of pressure on Drake Maye to make good decisions under duress. How the young quarterback handles it is certainly going to be a deciding factor. For Vrabel is how can he trick up the game to keep the Patriots in it going into the fourth quarter. If you're the Patriots, if I'm the Patriots and I'm Mike Vrabel, I am trying to do whatever I got to do to get the game into the fourth quarter with my team within one score. Because if my team is within one score, the pressure of the fourth quarter changes how people perform. And I would feel really good about my offensive coordinator making calls in that high pressurized environment. If I'm Mike McDonald, I'm looking at my team and I have the better team, I have the more talented team. My job is to make sure that my team doesn't give the game away. Everyone's going to talk about turnovers, but we can't turn it over. We got to make sure that we play a conservative game where we don't take unnecessary risks when it comes to going for it and giving the Patriots short fields. If you give the Patriots short fields, you're doing them a favor, and we've seen it come back to bite these teams. LA Chargers couldn't get it done. Houston Texans messed it up. The Denver Broncos, of course, basically gift wrapped the game to the Patriots because they got out of pocket, had egregious areas. All right, so we talked about coaches. We talked about approach to the game, how they both have to handle the game, how Mike McDonald has to just make sure he doesn't gift wrap anything for the Patriots because they've been feasting on those things. In the end, the Seattle Seahawks are the better team. They have more talent, more explosive playmakers in those things. The concerning thing to me would be Sam Darnold, and does he come back to the mean when it comes to the turnovers? I know everyone in the world, they're going to pick the Seattle Seahawks, but there's just something about this team that reminds me of the early 2000 Patriots. And I remember when the Patriots knocked off the greatest show on turf, and that just resonates with me. So I'm going to take the Patriots. I don't know why. And I know the odds say that like the Patriots are +4 on FanDuel Sportsbook, but I just think they found a way to get it done. I don't think this game covers when it comes to the over-under. Right now, the odds are at 45.5 over on FanDuel. I don't think it's a high-scoring game, but I think this is a game where they muck it up. The Patriots muck it up, and they find a way to win on a field goal in the end. So give me the Patriots finding a way to win in a major upset in Super Bowl 60. Regardless of how it turns out, I know we're going to be back on the Bucky Brooks Show on Monday and talk all about it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you continue to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Looking forward to doing more stuff because after the Super Bowl, it is draft season, and I can't wait. Talk to you soon.